Today's guest is JJ Fajardo, a versatile and accomplished drummer whose journey began in Denver, Colorado. From playing club gigs before his teens to earning a coveted presidential scholarship at Berklee College of Music, JJ has built an extraordinary career spanning jazz, Latin, and contemporary music. Now based in South Florida, he performs with a variety of groups. He's toured the world and he shares dynamic drumming and passion for music. So join us as we dive into his incredible story from early influences to global stages and his dedication to his craft. So good to see you.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, now as I mentioned, you're in Florida, but you've lived all over the place and been bringing your music to all these different cities, everywhere from New York to Boston to South Florida. So just kind of, walk me through what's been going on the last year in terms of playing and what you're up to musically.
Yeah, I mean the last year, I've been here in South Florida, so like Boca Raton, which is like just a little bit north of like Fort Lauderdale, and that's like in between West Palm Beach. So it's like West Palm Beach north, and then like where I'm at, like, Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and then Miami's more south than that, right? But it's all kind of connected, you know. I mean, it's just one massive city, you know. They're all different, but so I've been gigging, I mean, been gigging with rock bands, been doing like corporate stuff, been doing some jazz stuff too with some really killing players. There's actually some incredible talent down here. Like, I mean, I wasn't surprised. Like, I knew that there's some players, but yeah, there's a lot of music happening down here for sure. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
so you're are you basically trying to fill your schedule in terms of work with just doing as much playing as possible, like every style you can get behind and do to the best of your ability?
Yeah, yeah. And then I recently put together like some like promo footage to get like a drum DJ duo. And so I'm trying to get work for that too, you know. So that's just like my side hustle side, just filling in the blanks, you know. But it's good, you know. I mean, I'm excited for it and getting some good leads already, you know. So just have to cross over, you know.
Yeah,
So
well, I love Florida. Florida is such a way more relaxed place than New Jersey or New York where I grew up. It's just the exact opposite. Do you feel like that more relaxed mindset allows you to play, you know, better, or does it change the way you play at all, just being in that environment?
yeah, I mean, it's like you gotta, I mean, I think as a musician, we just like reflect where we're at, you know? And so, of course, the music here sounds different, you know? So it's not like fighting the tide. It's like, using, what I have to feel, my musical energy, if that makes a sense. So I wouldn't say it's more relaxed or, and maybe, being in a beachy environment definitely changes, music from California sounds different than it does, it just, it reflects the environment for sure. But as far as like intent musically, I think people are still trying to, make it killing. So yeah, it's of course playing the rock gigs on the beach, it's just jamming, everyone's just having a good time. It's not so, it's not tipping jazz where everyone's listening, but it's intensely and or anything like that. But there are some gigs like that too, you know.
Well, well, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to your education. I met you in at Berkeley in Boston. Um, I've just always been the type of person where it's like if there's someone that who I think is doing something that I want to, connect with musically, I'll do my best to try to meet them and network with them and even just play even if it's just a couple of times. And I remember like I don't know where it was I heard you play exactly before we jammed or anything like that, but like the way you played the ride cymbal was like on such a high level for a student, and that's obviously, shows that you were a presidential scholar. When you were at Berkeley, did you, being that there's only a couple of presidential scholars, did that give you like almost a little bit, was there any sort of pressure behind that, like, oh, like everyone expects this of me to play at this level? Like how did you look at that? I mean, obviously it's a privilege to be in, to get that ride, but like
Yeah.
it's also got to do something to you, like, oh, like everyone Did you think about that at all when you were there?
Yeah, I think I was pretty confident. I think I came. I think I was pretty confident. It's like, maybe I was cocky. But uh, I got humbled too, you know what I mean? I got humbled real quick when I got to Berklee, you know what I mean? So it was like I'm a type of musician where if I find somebody that can play better than me, then I'm just like, oh shit, I'm just gonna practice so I can fucking be iller than them. Like I'm just gonna just fucking I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. I'm just gonna freaking just go for it, I'm just gonna uh get that motivation. So, the motivation behind trying to be like a really good or to try to satisfy the presidential thing or anything like that. It was more just like, look at all of these musicians that are killing it. Like, dang, like, oh, I suck. Like, oh man, I gotta go kill it. So, I was confident, because I knew that I could play, but then also I was very humble at the same time because I'm like, wow, checking out some real good players, like, dang, guys that, you know what I mean, that are
Yeah.
still
I
killing
mean,
it.
you were so good, even, back then. I mean, even you were, I think we're around the same age. Like I'm 37. You're around the same
Yeah,
age.
yeah, 38 young.
38. Yeah. So even back then, you're you're confident, but you're still saying like there's people who are better than me, and you use that to fuel you.
Yeah,
It's like it's got to be something within you that like wants to just push the music to that level.
yeah.
Is it like, do you feel like the more you can do, the more you just can get out of yourself spiritually, anything like that? Or you're like, I'm here now. I need to execute my best. Talk to me a little bit about that, about just
Yeah,
progressing.
I'm like I got this video that I've been working with right here is Tommy Igo's Great Hands for a Lifetime. And it's like watching this dude play is like it's like he got finesse for days, like super finesse, And so, I'm still a student, man. I'm always a student, and like to to be learning out of this, even in being 38 years old, I was like I'm like still a kid, like, oh man, you
Yeah,
know.
same. I feel the same. I'm still trying to do new stuff every day. It's like
Yeah,
it
and
never stops.
it's crazy, and then it's like just getting to places where I'm like, oh man, like I can't do that. Like but then I'm like, no, I'm gonna get it, and I just dissect it in my brain, I dissect it, and it's like it's weird because it'll take me like, it'll take me a little bit of time, a few days or whatever, maybe a week or maybe a month, usually pretty quickly, but then I'll manifest it when I sleep, and then I'll like wake up the next day and just play it. So it's like yeah, I'm always trying to learn new things. I'm always trying to get better at what I'm doing. But then also like, music's like an art form and it's like, this majestic type thing too. So it's like literal and it's also like, emotional too. So
Yeah,
trying to tap into those deeper realms of being an artist, musician, like, okay, what's what's truly, me, what am I giving authentically, musically.
yeah. You've done so much, and you've gotten to play at all these different places, and really, been, in some of the best musical cities, right now, but you're also still a student, as you said. You're always going to be a student and wanting to get better. What do you
Yeah.
think you're most grateful for at this point in your life, in terms of career or music like that? Any experiences that you've just been really grateful for, and you wouldn't have been the person you are without them?
My father, first off, I take guitar lessons with him every like Wednesday, you
Really?
know. Yeah, because he's a really good guitarist, man. He had like, another job, do internet, AT&T, and he made his career, whatever, but he can really play guitar too. And so I study, guitar lessons with him every Wednesday, and so, it's
I hope he doesn't charge you.
he gives me a really good rate. It's like $20 a lesson, you know what I mean? So it's cool, but yeah, it's that probably my dad, you know what I mean? And yeah, music's been a great journey. It's been a great journey. All the people that I've met and all the people I'm still meeting, you know what I mean? All the musicians that I'm still meeting, like, oh man, like I went to Dennis Chambers. I went to go see Dennis Chambers here in Boca. And this is when I first moved here. I was like, I'm gonna go see Dennis, right? I need to find something, right? So I went to go see him play over here. And then it's weird because I met Dennis's. son in Colorado. Like it's this weird story. So I'm like, I worked this really weird job, like doing solar panels, right? But then the one of the
In
guys
Colorado, in
in
Colorado.
Colorado, right? And one of the guys that I met, he's like, he's like, oh yeah, my dad's this famous drummer, blah blah blah. I was like, oh yeah, like who's your dad? Like who's your dad? And he's like, "It's Dennis Chambers." I was like, it like gave me chill. Like even say that now because it was just like, wait a minute, what like what the F, right? Like what the F? Like, yeah, right. And then this is during COVID, right? So he's like, no, I'll show you. So he calls up Dennis Chambers, like right there, right? And it was like having a phone conversation with Dennis Chambers. Like, this is the most random thing because it's the most random job in the most random part of Colorado. Like, what is going on? But yet I was able to tap in. Like, it's just weird, right? Though, like that doesn't make any sense, right? Like his actual son, like that's not your like. He's like, my dad's this famous drummer. Like, who's your dad? Yeah, okay, your dad's so famous. He's like Dennis Chambers. Like, what?
Well, that's pretty
So
that's
anyways, so
pretty
anyways,
wild. So you got to know him a little bit?
so anyway, so yeah, so okay, so then Charles, right? That's his son, right? So then I went to go see Dennis, right? And I called Charles and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go see Dennis. So he links me up with Dennis, right? And then he Dennis like, oh, come in, and we're hanging, and then some of Dennis's friends is some of the people that live here that are like great musicians that are been doing it for a long time too, right? And so I linked up with some of his buddies and that live here, and yeah, it's cool, man. Like the musician network is weird, and
You
yeah,
cross paths with people you never think you're going to.
yeah, yeah. So making these connections, there's a lot of great musicians here,
Oh yeah,
so.
no, I was in Miami last year. Well, you're still kind of you could get to Miami, right? You know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gigging in Miami like probably at least once a month.
Yeah, I went to I forget the name of this place called the Lagniappe House or something like that. It was
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but like yeah, I mean I went to go hear music and it was just yeah, I mean amazing. That's the thing. I think, people sometimes think, oh, New York is like where the best musicians are, and I actually kind of disagree. Like there are a lot of musicians, but like there are the best musicians everywhere you go, there's people
Yeah.
everywhere. And anyone
Yeah.
who thinks like otherwise, like I might question them about that. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that or not.
I mean, I think definitely the concentrated wealth of high playing musicians in New York is just, yeah, there's no other place like it, right? There's like the best, right? And it's so condensed, right? And New York is just New York City. I mean, and so that's why you get the music you do from there, incredible, incredible music. But yeah, there's great musicians everywhere, man. That's for sure. But the concentration, for jazz, especially for jazz, it's like it's so important, like that city, it has the cultural, it's like it's like the melting pot, So um I miss New York a lot, but I always watch Smalls, like, after my gigs, sometimes I'll come home and I'll put it on. I'm always checking out the cats, because that's a great resource,
Yeah,
And so
definitely. We got to play together in New York, which was a treat for me because we did a couple of gigs together, like some of
yeah, we
those.
did a couple hits.
Yeah, that was fun for me to play with you after like, a couple years where I really couldn't play anything, and then I
Oh, you're great, bro.
could play some things, but talk a little bit about being in New York and what your experience was like, because there are a lot of young musicians out there who want to go, like saying like after they finish school or something, like I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to try to make it. Can you talk a little bit about the city, your experience being there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah, you got it. I think everyone got to go to New York. I mean, not everyone will go to New York, but I see, I think everyone should live there for some amount of time just to experience it. And it's, probably one of the most unique, if not the most unique city in the world. So, but it's so expensive now. I think it's changed a lot, It's very, very expensive there. It's very hard, for artists. But yeah, gotta go grind and make it happen. Even if you got to work at the deli and teach and play and sit in and just, yeah, yeah. For any
You
young,
got to do a lot to make all the, to put all the wheels in motion to make a living, to be honest, unless some people get lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of young cats on Smalls, when I'm watching Smalls live, and there's a lot of young kids, and I'm like, what do y'all do for your rent? Because I know it's expensive out there. Like, they must have mom and dad helping them out, or they're hustling. I'm sure. It's hard. It's hard in New York, and it's even for the musicians that are amazing, they still hustling. Musicians got to hustle, keep them gigs.
Yeah, definitely. And let's talk a little bit about um, your growth as a musician over the years because I really like how you said I'm always a student.
Yeah.
One of the things that comes with growing, if you're a student, is unlearning things. Uh, Maybe things that you used to do. Is there anything that you've had to let go of musically in order to move forward and get better as a musician that comes to mind?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, did you ever study with Hal Crook at Berkeley?
Did I ever well, I went through his books. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
had his books, but I
Oh man,
never
he
took
was
lessons with him.
he was so intense as an educator, man. He was like one of the best professors I ever had, and he
Right.
plays trombone, you know what I mean? He's a trombone player, right? But he was like probably one of the best professors I have. And I think about stuff that he says all the time still, just like because he was uh like I know he had love, but he was so hard and he was so mean. Like he's just like, just just tell you directly, just like stop, just stop, like what are you doing? Like just like he just uh, you know he was so cutthroat, But I there's a lot that I'm processing that still, like 2 decades later, like geez, and still trying to figure out some of the stuff that he was talking about musically and following, the dynamics and just, how much like little differences can make a huge impact, and musically following the melody and how to orchestrate the drums. And, I still think about all that all the time. Like, he's like, play musically, like play a melody. And then he's like, no, 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 no. He's like, let me show you, let me show you. And then he'd come and sit down and then he's like this, and he's like, I'm like, dang, here we go, So that's that part of that humbling experience, right?
So
And
you learned a lot from him.
yeah, yeah, I mean, Berkeley was crazy, like when I really think about it, and people are like, "Oh, you went to Berkeley? Then how was that?"
He
It's
asked, I mean,
amazing.
like
I'm still
he
thinking
asked,
about it.
I spoke to him. He asked me, he wanted me to come take a lesson at his house. It was like hours away or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, he was a very intense professor, and those that really got to know him and to study with him, could attest to his love because he had just great love for the music, and for excellency and to strive for the best and to, for to push especially a student beyond what they think they're capable of, to get too comfortable because we can get comfortable as musicians and we just get stuck playing the same stuff, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And we're not really mindful or conscious of what we're doing. We're just, you know, we're just regurgitating it sometimes at a point we're just like boom, chats, boom, whatever, but really getting deep in the music and really seeing what kind of musicianship we can manifest.
No, definitely. I mean, like if you could go back and give yourself advice to your younger self, what would you tell that person, you think?
uh I mean, yeah, just keep going, you know what I mean? Because there was a lot of times, my late 20s, my 30s, I wasn't gigging so much and I was like, didn't know that I would be gigging as much as I am now, right? And so it's kind of like I don't want to take away from any of the experience because now I found myself working more than I ever did, you know, 20 years ago, even when I was in college. I mean, I gigged a lot then too, but I mean,
You were
I'm
gigging
gigging
in
a lot.
college, man. It's like
Yeah.
you were gigging before that. It's there's
And so
ebbs and flows, I think, with the
yeah, yeah. And so, any encouragement, yeah, I mean, just keep going because now I find myself at a good place to really learn more, like giant steps, trying, okay, what's the next thing, And so
Yeah, I
now I'm
think
like
that's the
studying, like this and
no, you're right. I think
myself.
it's about the journey and like you're if people don't understand that it's decades and it's lifelong and if you're a true artist, you're in it for life.
Yeah. 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 It's definitely a long game.
Yeah, no, I agree. But being a professional musician, being a jazz musician, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of misconceptions out there that people have of us. younger musicians or even about the lifestyle that it is they want to be a jazz musician. Is there anything, a common misconception about being a musician you wish more people understood? Whether it be younger musicians or people who aren't musicians that anything you think about like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I wish people respected music more than they do. You know, we take it for granted, you know, ever since Napster, you know, ever since we could just have music for free, you know, musicians like went to the bottom, you know, and musicians really at the top, really, because you know how many people gravitate towards music. We use music to drive, we use music to have fun, we use music when we're sad, we music when we're happy. We use music for everything, you know what I mean? A piece of art, you can't use art, you know, you can look at a piece of art, you know, you can go watch a dancer, you can, you know, but for music, it's like we should be it's like the top. We should be respected because it's such a hard thing to do and to be good at it. It's like takes a lot of practice. And so people just like, oh, musician will pay $50 each. And that's like what? Like, do you know how long it took for me to learn how to play this instrument? So if there's anything I wish is that the respect came back to musicians, that musicians were paid for everything that they produce, you know?
Yeah, no, no,
That could be a wish to come true.
no. I think you're totally right. Is success what does success mean to you? Would success be just being able to do what you love to do and be able to support yourself, your family? Like, can you talk about what your definition of success is now? Because it changes like as we get older and it's different than you when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate, man. Like when I play gigs, you know, because I'm like living the dream, right? I'm living the dream. I'm like in it while I'm like, okay, what would I be doing? Like I'm actually doing it. So I feel fortunate, you know what I mean? Very, very
Yeah.
fortunate. Sometimes I miss the city, you know, sometimes I miss the New York because there's just so much like what's what's next in New York, you know? And sometimes I miss New York, but I love Florida and I like the work that I have. And so I'm grateful, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I have my own views about playing, and we we have these thoughts that we want to be innovative and create something new. You definitely have such a unique voice on the drums. But there's also so many, you know, roots in terms of drummers. There's so much history there. Can you talk a little bit about getting to the point of being like able to sound like yourself on the drums? Anything that might have a light switch might have went off? You had a certain gig or something where you're like, oh, I feel like I get it a little more now and I can be me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just still evolving, you know, even today, you know, it's like not that I sound different every single day, but it's like I'm a different person than I was last week, you know. So it's always evolving, you
Or even
know.
this morning.
Exactly, you know. So it's just you know, it's ever flowing for sure. Yeah.
So being able to understand that you're always going to be, you need to be aware of the fact that you're always changing.
Yeah, yeah, and just trying to, I guess, see positivity, you know, to see so where's the growth at, you know. There's so much to beat ourselves up over, but if we really look at it and probably and when we're 80 years old looking back like actually that was I was I hope you enjoyed it as much as it will seem then, you know what I mean? Okay, probably should have enjoyed that, you know.
Yeah, what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't doing music? You ever think about that, or did you ever have a moment where you're like, oh, I should maybe, anything like that ever like come to mind? Any other
I
jobs you might
mean,
have thought you could have done?
yeah, I mean, yeah, you would, we had a gig the other day and I was just like, we're parking and there's this guy in his cart and he's like, okay, you guys have to follow us. And I'm like, this is like some people, this is what they do. Like
Yeah.
we show up and get to play music. They show up and they got to drive this cart. So it's like, you know what I mean? Wait a minute. Okay. So yeah.
No, the
No,
playing is the part. It's the traveling that sucks or whatever else, dealing with
right.
certain, but the
Yeah.
playing is fun.
Exactly. Musicians are never happy. Give them a gig and they're going to complain. So, but yeah, I'm fortunate.
Yeah, I think complaining is something that's becoming more relevant now. I think like the younger people tend to complain more or feel maybe I don't want to I'm not trying to put them in a box, but maybe there's a little bit more entitlement there because they grew up with technology and social media.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I also don't. I also don't want to like grow into the musicians that are like hating on the younger musicians because I also like seen that in my lifetime, you know what I mean? Where the older dudes are just hating on the younger ones, like you know what I mean? You just feel that vibe. So I'm trying to consciously like not do that. That I'm starting to get older and there's younger musicians than me. I'm not trying to be the hater. If anything, I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
And then so I could get better too. Like going back to it, just inspiring me to play. And I think musicians sometimes they start hating. They start getting bitter. You know what I mean? And so that's also a route I don't want to go. That's no. I'm just gonna keep trying to get better. Keep trying
Yeah,
to get.
I posted something about this recently. Like the jazz is unequivocal. It crosses all the boundaries. It doesn't matter if you're 12 years old or 80 years old. You got to give props to anyone who's trying to play this music and give them their and don't have contempt for people who are younger than you in that way. And but for,
Yeah,
maybe I don't. I mean, I don't understand why older musicians put younger musicians in that box. Sometimes it really doesn't make sense.
yeah. It doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, it's just insecurities. I think that should just be motivation to be like musicians, to be like fine wine. The older we get, maybe we don't have to play as many gigs, but the gigs we do play sound good and just keep trying to work on our art because yeah, it's important. It'll
Yeah, I mean,
take us
you
to
can go
the
to
next.
Applebee's every day, but then you can go to like, Ruth Chris Steakhouse or whatever once every couple months, it's kind of like
Yeah.
that. The better things, less, quality versus quantity.
Yeah. It's crazy talking about these things, because I mean, 40's right around the corner, 40's, but oh man, that's a whole career, right? So but yeah, I definitely don't want to be that musician that grows up hating on the young musicians.
You don't strike me as the person who would be that way at all.
They need support, they need support and some of those musicians they need somebody to say something to spark them to keep going because, I definitely had those. So
Well, I could have definitely seen some, older drummers, some drum instructors at Berklee having contempt for the way, you play. It's such a, being such an amazing musician. And that's definitely got something you probably had to navigate through as well, like just from the older musicians there.
yeah, I mean, it was something, but it was cool. Most of these showed love, you know what I mean? But there's
Yeah.
some that were definitely tough. But I also learned from that situation too. There was this conguero that used to go to Wally's. Um, what was his name? I forget. He was an old Cuban dude, and he was so mean too, right? He was so mean, but he was just he had his expectations for how to play certain rhythms and how to play the rumba and how to play a wawanko and how to really be true to that. You know what I mean? To play it correctly and not just oh, it's a Latin gig. Oh, just blah blah blah. No, to actually okay, what's the roots here and to give the respect. You know what I mean? And so sometimes, trying to see through that. Sometimes the older musicians are kind of hard, but there's a silver lining in there.
Yeah. No, JJ, this has been so great to catch up and everything. Where can everyone find you? Social media, anything you want to let us know or
Yeah,
email?
Facebook, JJ Fajardo, Instagram, JJ on drums with a Z. My Instagram needs some followers, so anybody watching this, come hook me up.
Definitely.
Definitely put out pretty cool content. I need to do more, so yeah, be looking out,
Well, you'll share this for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Good to see you and everything.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate it, man. This has been cool. This has got me thinking about more things now. I'm like, all right, time to get busy.